Hello, listeners. This is Robonzo with a quick ask. If you enjoy the podcast, please consider becoming a supporter. I love doing the podcast, and it will always be free for you. But alas, it does cost money to produce. I've created several options for showing your support and plan to create more. To learn more about offering your support, please visit unstarvingmusician.com/crowdsponsor. One more time, that's unstarvingmusician.com/crowdsponsor. Let's do the show. This is the Unstarving Musician podcast. I'm your host, Robonzo. The podcast features conversations with me, indie music artists, and industry professionals, and it's all intended to help other indie music artists be better at marketing, business, the creative process, and all the other things that empower us to do more of what we love. Make music. My guest for this episode is Michael Sloan of Streaming Promotions, which, as its name might imply, is a strategic streaming platform promotion company. Streaming Promotions has been in business since 2015, and Michael was quoted in Rolling Stone from an article earlier this year that discusses competition for eartime on Spotify and all the things related to streaming promotions. In our conversation, Michael explains why streaming promotion is important. He also explains the related ecosystem, which is in part comprised of Spotify playlists, artists, consumers, and labels. Michael gives insight into Spotify curated versus independently curated playlists, who streaming promotions identifies as playlists that matter, how they do that, and how they find artists that they want to work with. We also talk about scams to avoid and what artists should be asking as they look into this world of streaming promotions. It was a very educational conversation for me. I hope you will find it to be the same for you. Here's me and Michael Sloan of Streaming Promotions. Well, this is a timely conversation. It'll probably get published fairly close to one that just came out this week that I titled "What's Wrong with Music Distribution," and there's kind of a tie-in there. So I thought I was like, oh, this will be cool on the tail end of that. But I don't know. I understand its importance, and I've certainly read a thing here and there, and because of all the conversations I have, talk about the importance of streaming and streaming promotion. But I don't really know much about it, so. I guess let's start with talking about why it's important and what's going on within streaming promotion right now.
Yeah, I think, first and foremost, we've got, as you talked about distribution, you've got so much music being released daily. If you're to believe TuneCore, Daniel Ek, either one, it's 40,000 tracks added to the platform every day. So you've just got a huge volume of music. And the issue there is there are only so many editorial looks that you can get. So editorial being the Spotify curated playlists. The rest are up for grabs with how are you getting audience to your music. So our efforts just were, let's go find users that have large followings on their playlists, and let's reach out to those people and see if they would like to listen to music that we're promoting. So it's really more about just trying to grow audience. There's just such a torrent of music being released that you're in a place where it's hard to cut through the noise.
Yeah, and I can hear myself now. I found my problem.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and I gathered in doing a little bit of reading for a conversation today that this is discouraging for some artists. I kind of subscribe to that. Don't worry about what everybody else is doing kind of approach, and dive into your music and learn as much as you can about getting it out there so that we don't get too discouraged.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with, keep your own path. And I've worked with a lot of artists over the years, and I've always said that, comparison is the thief of joy. So don't look at what other people are doing and the success they're having and kind of keep your course. I think part of it also is there's just so much music out there that even just keeping your course, if you're not finding new audience, you're basically releasing music into a figure eight pattern. It's going after the same people and then kind of you're going back and recording more music and it's going out to the same people again, and there's really no growth or expanding your audience. And so I think that's where companies come in to try to do digital marketing campaigns, and us specifically on Spotify with streaming promotions.
Yeah, and for me, the indie artist goal for getting their music out there is building their own community, and letting those people be the backbone of their music business. But how should they be thinking about streaming as part of the equation? Because to me, also, I think that to go from indie artist to someone who's more widely recognized, this is kind of where streaming becomes even more important.
Sure. I look at everything as kind of a funnel, if you will, right? So first you need to build awareness of you as an artist. And this is really where I guess the beginning of streaming promotions happened. Was this is a great, relatively cheap and somewhat revenue producing tool that allows you to find exposure to a new audience, because obviously with Spotify and the consumption services, it's all you can eat, right? It's not about finding a download or purchasing an album. It's once you subscribe to the service, you have access to millions of songs. So if one of those is you and your song, then how are you getting it to the public, and how are you building that awareness? So our goal really is just to try to grow that awareness of those artists and build their community. And so once you can build that community, I don't look at us as the end goal. I look at us as, the top of that funnel, where then you're trying to build towards a ticket if touring ever comes back, or, buying merchandise, or becoming a lifelong fan of someone that's going to save that music and come back to it over and over again. So I think that's really kind of how I look at what we do. We're really the company that's trying to go from and make that initial introduction to the artist.
And when an artist is considering using a service like the one you provide, let's just, I guess, talk as generically as you can, but what are the things that they really need to consider? What are the things that they should look for? What are the gotchas they need to avoid?
Anything that says guarantee, pretty much I would say in the digital space in general, I guarantee I'll get you this many impressions. I guarantee I'll get you this many ads to playlist. I guarantee you'll have this many increase in followers or monthly listeners. There's not really, in any type of promotion game, there's not really a guarantee, unless you're doing something nefarious like botting spins, or you own playlists, which is in violation of the terms and conditions of Spotify, and you're just adding to those lists. So anything that looks fishy and seems too good to be true, 9 times out of 10 is.
And what does that mean, to own a playlist?
So there were several playlists in the early days of Spotify that gained a lot of traction, and people realized that if they could own these playlists, and they could charge for people to add their songs to these playlists. So several people went out and began buying, large groups of playlists. So they'll own, 50 to 100 playlists that have 50,000 followers or more. And then they will, advertise, I can get you 50 ads, 25 ads on playlists, and guarantee that the playlist will have X number of followers. And all they're doing is just taking your money and then putting your music on playlists that they actually control. In most cases, those playlists no longer really generate the traffic, or at least the organic traffic that you'd want to see. A lot of them, they're running through bots, and so it's just running the playlist over and over and over again to guarantee a certain stream count on the other side. So it's really, advantageous for any artist to look into what you're actually buying. If anybody's saying I guarantee you 50 or 100 placements, or I guarantee it on a follower count of X, it's usually fake and or running afoul of the terms and conditions of Spotify. And the problem with that is that if you get busted with any of that as an artist, Spotify can pull down your entire artist profile, which you lose all your stream counts and your monthly listeners and all the rest of it. So it can be pretty tough on an artist if that happens, obviously, because then you're starting from scratch.
Do many artists that you work with find you guys, or does your company find talent that it wants to work with and kind of prospect? Does the prospecting go both ways, or?
It does. So we've got relationships with a few larger labels and some larger management companies. And so a lot in that sense is us reaching out saying, hey, what's the plan for Artist X? I've got a sales team of a few people that do some research and reach out on artists that we'd like to work with. We also, get tons of submissions. We probably get 200 to 250 submissions a month. Of that, we run that in front of our promotion team to see if it's going to work. Usually the adoption rate of the 250 submissions we get a month is probably 5 to 10 a month. So we try to be selective and make sure that we're choosing the right artist. But we also make sure that, it's not just a come to streaming promotions and hand us money and we go to work for you. We want to make sure that we're actually, going to have some success, we hope.
So the path to getting involved with a company like yours then is through a label, and did you say through larger PR houses too?
We work with some PR management, but we also work with some PR companies. So we've got I've been in the music industry now for almost 20 years, so we've got some relationships with some larger companies, and most of those things are artists that you recognize.
Yep.
So we do a lot of work in those spaces, but every campaign is unique. So we do a lot of DIY. We even do some startup artists that this is their first release, and we're just trying to grow an audience from zero.
Cool. Tell me or describe to me the in-house and independent playlist curators and how they play into the ecosystem of what you guys do.
Sure. I mean, they are the lifeblood of what we do. Getting ads on user-generated and independent lists really allows us to grow that monthly listener number. And so while ads is kind of what our currency is, if you will, with our clients, we're also working towards the algorithmic playlist to Spotify. So Discover Weekly, Release Radar, Daily Mood, the radio functionality, related artists, that type of thing. So our goal is to get you ads on lists that are, genre and or mood vibe specific to the artist. And then hopefully that trigger the algorithm to get you into larger buckets for your next release on Release Radar, or get you into a larger audience of Discover Weekly. So it's really the independent playlist community is really kind of what we're using to help lever those other algorithmic lists. But the independent playlister is just any user like me or you that just has either become the cool kid that's passing around the mixtape in middle school, or or they're active. There are some playlisters that are actively going out and marketing their playlist to try to grow followers. I'm not sure if that's for vanity or if their goal at some point is to try to sell space on those lists. I would advise against that, again, against the terms and conditions. But there are a lot of folks that are out there, trying to grow that list just to be an influencer in the space.
What are the characteristics of a this might be too broad of a question, but what are the characteristics of a good playlist?
That it matches, if it says it's, songs to get ready to in the morning or songs to work out to, that it matches that vibe, one. So that's very important. That it's not, a playlist of 50,000 followers, then you look at it and it says, 90s top hits, and it's got randomly spattered in there a bunch of new releases, because that's usually something that's being botted or something that's just trying to be faked to get spins to those new tracks. A good playlist is going to be something that has a theme and is consistent. For us, it's going to need to have more than 500 followers, but not just about the follower count, because that's not nearly as important as how many streams are coming out of that actual playlist per month. So we use some software where we can see actually how much traffic, how many streams are being generated by that playlist. So we make sure that it's active and working.
Is some of that information kind of hidden to the regular eye? You mentioned software. Is it something that kind of has to be ferreted out?
Yes. I mean, there are several companies out there that are, that have gone in and done some analytics on I mean, it's all based on Spotify's API, so it's nothing. It's nothing off the grid, but it's still stuff that you wouldn't see as an average user.
Sure. And when you say consistent, what is consistent? Does that mean that it's growing, it's adding, it's changing?
It's growing, it's adding, it's changing. It's still active. There's still spins coming out of it, and consistent in the sense that it does follow some type of theme, whether it be, songs I've discovered in indie rock this week, or songs that, whatever it might be. We want to make sure that it's stayed consistent to that theme, and that it's, it's not just they're just adding music left and right that doesn't seem to match what the playlist is titled.
Sure. Earlier I was going to ask what are good questions that an artist should ask, like of a company like yours, but it almost seems like that those questions should maybe go to their management or their label. But yeah, so it's a two-part question. What are the questions they should ask in this area, to learn about this area and figure out what their strategy should be, and who should they ask?
Yeah, I mean, I think anyone, if you're going into the playlist promotion world and you're looking for a company to work with, I think first is just be wary of the too good to be true and the guarantee of things. Ask the question of who are these curators, or do you have an example of a report, or how can you guarantee anything that you're saying you can guarantee? Because we're going to tell you on the streaming promotion side, I can't guarantee you anything. I can guarantee you that you're going to have my staff's attention and support, and we're going to reach out to as many playlists as we can find that fit, that fit your music, and we're going to hope to grow. But if you say the word, I guarantee you, I'll get 50 playlist ads. There's something amiss there. Something's not right. So those are the first questions to ask, and just continue to be, if it looks like if it's $500 to get 10,000 streams on a song, like that's absolutely a bot. That you can't manufacture that otherwise. And most of those botted, most of those botted lists or those botted streams are coming from, Indonesia, or coming from areas that you probably wouldn't have a fan base. I know Spotify has found a couple spots. One was outside of Cleveland a couple of years ago, and there's one in Houston now. That it will, at least if your top market is Houston by a huge margin, and you're not from the Houston or Texas area, it's probably a pretty good indicator that something incorrect was done, or something. There's some there's some game in the system happening.
Yeah, and was the second part, is that not really applicable, but like, where do they go to find, where's the best place for them to be asking? Or I noticed you guys have a great blog, some stuff that you put out on Medium, and there's a couple articles here and there. Maybe those are the best places to sort of just start and learn what they need to know so that they can speak intelligently about it.
Absolutely. I think staying on top of what's happening in the space. Obviously, it's been the Wild West we've been around for 5 years, and it's definitely changed a great deal in that time. But just making sure you're knowledgeable about streaming and what's happening in the space. I think the Rolling Stone article that we were quoted in had a pretty good write-up. We've done some decent, like, just kind of state of the industry stuff that's currently on our Medium page, and was also on a TuneCore blog as well. So we're trying to get the word out there. A lot of it's just about education for us, just making sure we're educating our clients, and trying that's 80% of, honestly, what I feel like we're really good at promoting music, but we're really good at educating us. So this is the kind of the state of where things are, and this is it's important to make sure that our clients don't come into this blind, and they know what we're up to.
A good friend of mine who has a wildly successful business in a completely different area says something that I think applies to your business and probably most, but that he says his best customer is an educated customer. So he spends a lot of time
always
doing that. Yeah. Let me wrap up with a few business questions, if I may.
Sure.
Tell me about the different ways you guys make money.
Sure. I mean, so the only way that we are making money is through clients. So again, we don't own anything. We're not renting space on any list. We don't. So it's truly just just like a PR agency or any digital promotion, service company. You pay us to come in the door and work your music, and we work it, and we send weekly reports, and we do research on your behalf, and we actually get feedback from the curation community to give you feedback on your music. And you have to take that with a grain of salt, because everybody's a critic. But we go to work for you, and that's, it's really a service-based business.
Okay. And you guys are privately funded, right?
Yeah, it's totally bootstrapped. So
Okay.
it was from the outset, it was an idea. We found a market and kind of took off after it.
And how are you growing the business?
We're steady right now. I feel like we're kind of capped. We've got 15 employees. We keep anywhere from 70 to 100 clients, 50 to 100 clients probably at any given time. So Growth is really relative. I mean, I feel like we've carved a pretty good niche as to what we're trying to accomplish, and it's really just maintaining at this point. At 5 years in, 5.5 years in now as a business, you're just trying to make sure there's some margin there, and you keep the lights on.
Cool. Well, hey man,
especially during this time,
I'm
trying to keep my people employed.
No kidding. I would think that it's a time that people are not going to forget about the importance of this, but I wish the best of luck to you in your continued efforts to serve the community. And thank you very much for coming on today. I will definitely stay in touch, certainly if nothing else, to let you know when this publishes.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it so much. Thanks so much for having me.
Cheers. This episode was powered by Bandzoogle, the easiest all-in-one professional website platform for musicians and bands. 2 things that will help ensure you're in control of your music business and your fan-based community are a website and an email list. Bandzoogle can help you do both. Plus, a solid website makes you look legitimate. Serious musicians, singers, songwriters, composers, and performers know this to be true. If you don't yet have your own website, check out Bandzoogle. It was created by musicians for musicians. I use it and I love it. It's as easy to use gets, and you don't have to worry about plugin updates and security patches. Bandzoogle takes care of all that for you. The features and support are both incredible. See for yourself. Go to bandzoogle.com to start a 30-day free trial and use the promo code Robonzo to get 15% off your first year. Plans start at just $8.29 a month. That's bandzoogle.com, promo code Robonzo, ROBONZO, to start your free trial today. This episode was powered by ConvertKit. I have been a ConvertKit user since early 2016, and I really love it for the email marketing aspects of what I do. It's more than just an email marketing company, though. They are focused on landing pages, too, giving beginner creators everything they need to start building their email lists. Their new free plan allows creators to make unlimited landing pages and forms, and you can choose from multiple templates, personalize them with design, include an incentive email, create a thank you page, manage all your subscribers, and of course send broadcast emails. The support is great, and that is important to me. To learn how ConvertKit can help you connect with your audience so that you can make a living doing work you love, go to unstarvingmusician.com/convert or the show notes for this episode. Did you know you can help other independent artists find this podcast by subscribing on Apple Podcast or wherever you are listening to your podcast these days? It really does help, so I hope you will consider it. The Unstarving Musician podcast is made possible through the support and generosity of listeners like you. One of the easiest ways to support the podcast, if you're a musician, is to join the Unstarving Musician community, which you can do at, you guessed it, unstarvingmusician.com. In joining the community, you get tips and insights you can use in your music journey that comes not only from me and my years of experience, but also from the hundreds of other musicians that I speak to as part of the Unstarving Musician project and podcast. Plus, you'll get a free copy of my Unstarving Musician's Guide to Getting Paid Gigs ebook, the official version, and that's all for free just for being part of the community. You can learn about other ways of offering support by visiting the Unstarving Musician crowd sponsor page at unstarvingmusician.com/crowd sponsor. And if you have feedback, please go to unstarvingmusician.com to get all my contact info. You can text me, call me, email me, leave a voice message right there on that page. Just go down to the bottom of the page and you'll find everything you need to know. I really would love to hear any of your comments, suggestions, questions, whatever you've got. And you can find links to just about everything talked about in this episode at unstarvingmusician.com/podcast. All right, I'm peacing out. Thank you for listening and sharing with your musician friends and fellow indie music fans. Peace, gratitude, and a whole lot of love.